You know what it is. That's right. It's time to talk money with your money nerd and financial coach. Now, tighten those purse strings and open those ears. It's the Money Talk with Tiff podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Money Talk with Tiff podcast. So today I have Florian Fritz on the line. Now, Florian is all the way from Austria, and he is the founder of Money Hero Academy, where he's teaching small business owners how to build true wealth and financial freedom by working on their money mindset, money management, and money-making skills. So as a financial advisor, Florian realized during the last financial crisis in 2008 that the financial industry was only looking out for their own best interests and not that of their clients. That's why he decided to get in the space and help people like me and you. So hey, Florian, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hi, Tiffany. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. So before we jump into our conversation, I just wanted to shout out our sponsor real quick. So this episode is sponsored by Jasmine Mortgage Team. Jasmine and her team are fire-minded and loved by both real estate investors and first-time home buyers. They help you get the mortgage that you need to buy your house, which we'll actually be talking about in this episode, which is quite funny. But you can find them at jasminemortgageteam.com. Again, that is jasminemortgageteam.com. And I love Jasmine Mortgage Team because they help people get the right loan. So they are very honest, they're very open, and they will tell you when you cannot afford something, which I think is a good practice. So definitely check them out. All right. So thank you so much, Florian. So let's just hop right in, right? So before we jumped on, we had a brief conversation about how things are the same and different between the US and Austria. Now, I just wanted to let the audience in on some of these things because I thought, you all are doing it the right way. We're doing it the wrong way. So let's just talk about credit in general. So how does credit work over in Austria?
Yeah, I wouldn't say we're doing it right. You're doing it wrong. There's lots of things I wish we had that you do. But let's start with what we were talking about. How we do it. It's really pretty difficult to get credit here. Or you have a credit card, but you can't have five credit. You can have 5 credit cards, but they will always take the money at the end of the month. So actually, it's a loan only for a month. You can't grow your credit card debt every month and get more and more and more, and then you transfer it to the next card because that one is maxed out. That just doesn't work because they're coming and taking it from you. So you lose the card pretty quickly if you're not paying. So that's about credit. Then about mortgages, they don't assume that your house will go up in price. They just check your income. And if you can afford that mortgage with your income, then they'll be happy and give you a loan. And if you don't, they won't. So they don't say, that doesn't matter. Your house will go up in price and we can just take the house. They don't want your house. They want the money. So it's a lot harder to get a mortgage. And that's something that I would actually like at least a mix between your system and ours. Because if I want to invest in real estate, how do I buy a second house if I have to secure it with my income?
This is true. So just to back up a little bit, so credit is not as easy to get as over here. And also they just snatch your money. So there's no running up your credit card bills, which I think is a great thing that we should have over here. Not the snatching the money part, but that you can't, run it up so much to where you're just drowning in debt. Because I know in America, that's one of the things. Credit card debt is one of the top debts that we have because it's so easy to get a card and then it's so easy to run it up and even run it over your available balance. And there's no, they don't just snatch the money out. So there's no constraint there. You have to have your own constraint mechanisms in order not to use it. So I think that that's kind of a good idea to not give people access to so much, knowing that they probably won't be able to pay it. And then with the mortgages, you're right. I don't know, because I would love to invest in real estate. So people aren't really able to do real estate unless they have the money to just buy it outright. Is that right?
Well, yes. Either you start a company and a real estate company, and you prove to the banks that you know what you're doing, and then slowly build it up. But if you like privately just say, I want to buy a second apartment to rent it out, they're not going to ask, okay, how much rent are you going to get? No. How much is your income? Can you afford that if it's not rented out? So yes, it's a lot more difficult to do it here. And the next thing is the returns on real estate investments in Vienna are like 1%, maybe 2%. So why bother?
That's true.
If you
That's
apartments, there's no returns because the rents are relatively low and the buying price is relatively high. So
Gotcha.
I wouldn't invest in an apartment in Vienna. And even renting it out with Airbnb is basically forbidden in Vienna because everybody living in the house has to agree that you rent out your apartment to Airbnb, which probably won't happen.
Oh, interesting. So how it's set up is like if you live in an apartment, everybody in the building has to say, okay, you can rent this out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no way to do it.
Yeah, rent it out on a like daily basis, like with Airbnb or something similar. If you rent it out to somebody living there all the time, that's okay. But
Interesting. And I would think, being that Austria, is it a popular tourist destination? I know I want to go, but
well, yes, Vienna has won the city with highest quality of living in the world for 11 years in a row. So yes, it is a good place to see and be.
Interesting. And see, maybe that's why, like the Airbnb and, all that stuff, it gets shot down because investors are probably come in and just buy everything up.
Yeah, actually, especially in the city center, lots of foreign millionaires, mainly Russians, by the way, have parked a lot of money. So there's lots of luxury apartments just being empty and driving prices up because somebody's parking his millions there.
Ah, I see. Interesting. So let's switch gears a little bit because, I was thinking about all the debt that we have here. So we covered credit cards.
What we do
we
instead
covered
of
mortgages.
credit card is overdraft. People overdraft their bank accounts, but you can't get as much as with the credit cards because you have one, maybe two bank accounts, and you'll get 1,000 or maybe two, and then that's it. So that's
Gotcha.
our
Yeah.
credit card debt equivalent.
Gotcha. Okay. Because we do have overdraft here too, which the government is actually, last I read, they're actually going after like the big banks and stuff with the overdraft fees. Because here, if you go over like 10 cents, let's say, they'll charge you $35 or whatever their fee is on top of that. And so, people have been saying for years that it's just egregious, like it's just overkill. So now, the last I read, the government is starting to put their foot down and telling them that they can't do so much, which I think would be a good move. But, I guess the goal is really to stay out of overdraft, period. But, sometimes if it's 10 cents and you're charging me 35, that's crazy. So anyway, we covered credit, we covered overdraft now, we covered mortgages. Another popular debt here is student loan debt. So of course I had to ask the question, do you all struggle with the same thing?
Yeah, no, we don't, because studying is basically free here. You go to university and you're paying like 300 as for the semester, so 600 a year. That's it. So you don't really need a loan to study unless you want to, live in a fancy apartment while doing that. But studying doesn't cost that much. And so you don't need a loan. And the next thing is the bank wouldn't give you a loan because you can't prove an income. It might give a loan to your parents, but it won't give a loan to you as a student.
Which makes perfect sense. And, when you were explaining that before we got on and hit record, you made a really good point. You were like, the banks aren't going to say, oh, well, how much are you going to make in the future? No, they're just not going to give it to you. It's not.
As I said, even in real estate, if you come with a project, I want to buy this apartment, they are not interested in how much rent you're going to get. They want to see your income now. If you want to start a business and you have the perfect business plan and maybe even clients lined up, right? If you say, I'm going to make this and this much money, and then, no, well, we want to see your income now and your securities now. So why would they give money to a student who says, I'm studying, I don't know, English literature, and I'm going to make so much money in the future? No, we want your income now. So you wouldn't get that loan, but the lucky part is we don't need it.
Right. And it makes so much sense, especially having the education at such a low cost. But then also, who knows what's going to happen in the future. And it's kind of a good thing that you all's banks are like, we don't care about the future. We care about the right now. Like, am I going to get the money right now? So I thought that was really cool. Now, being that even though you don't have the same types of debt that we have, Austrians still have debt, which you said, is the overdrafts and, it looks like other things. So I assume that's why you decided to start helping people, right?
Well, actually, yes and no. Yes and no. I started as a financial advisor 19 years ago. And I was, working with the largest financial advisory company in the German-speaking area at that time. And we had a lot of fun and I learned a lot and made good money. But then I found, especially during the crisis then in 2008, that I didn't really like what the financial industry was doing with their clients, meaning clients take all the risk and pay all the fees. And the banks and investment companies, they take all the money. And in 2008, when everything crashed, the clients were still paying their fees, although they lost like 20 to 80% of their money. They were still paying fees. I thought there has to be a better way to create wealth than to believe bankers and financial advisors who sell you expensive products. And that's when I started learning, traveling the world to learn from some of the best trainers like Kiyosaki and T. Harv Eker and some investment fund managers on how to actually create wealth. So I was actually focused more on that side, how you can grow your money than how to get in or out of debt, until I tested it myself, how it feels to be in debt. Because everything was running fine, so I had too much time, and if everything's running good, some of us have the tendency to sabotage ourselves, right? By now, I know I'm not the only one. I keep asking people to make sure. So I did that, started another business with a business partner who bankrupted that business while I was not taking care of it enough. And suddenly I had $500,000 in debt myself. So now it's added to my goals. What I want to achieve with teaching money is helping people, first of all, avoid a situation like that, or if they already are in debt, how to get out of it and still create wealth and financial independence.
Yeah, it seems like I've been saying that a lot here lately. Like, it doesn't matter how deep or how dire the situation is, there's always a way out of it. So being that, $500,000, that's a ton of money, but you're still sitting there like, okay, I can do this. Let me go ahead and build out a plan. And not only can I do it, but while I'm doing it, I can also help other people do the same thing. And I think that's phenomenal. And especially looking at that big of a hill to climb. So I want to stay on that for a little bit, because I think, when you say $500,000, people are probably like, whoa, like, what do you plan to do? So what are some strategies that you're going to implement or you have implemented in your situation that could help people that are looking at, big amounts as well?
In my case, with $500,000, which is really a lot, And I didn't feel very responsible for that debt because I hadn't done anything with that money. So I decided to go bankrupt and defaulted on most of it. So I'm actually paying only 18% of it, which is like 60,000, something like that. So that's what I'm actually really paying. And then after deciding that I want to do that, it's not really a good decision personally. I think if it's a little less than 500,000 and you can cover it or make a plan to cover it without doing that, then I think that's better to make payment plans and organize that somehow. But yeah, 500,000 in that case for me, it seemed too much.
Oh yeah,
Okay, what I did
absolutely.
then after doing that, and now, okay, now how am I going to pay that? Many people or advisors say, okay, first you got to get out of debt, and then you can start making your safety fund, and then you start investing. And that's totally wrong, in my opinion. You got to keep some money for yourself right from the beginning. So from everything you make, okay, you have to pay a lot of debt, but you always have to keep something for yourself and make that work for you. Take some money, invest it, learn how to invest so you don't have 0.1% returns, but 20% or more. And I did that. I took like the $1,000 that I could find somewhere and I invested them and I created grew that, created an investment income, and today I'm paying my debt out of investment income. Now, if you don't start investing, you only pay off your debt, you have to do it with hard work. And that's not as much fun as having your money work for you and pay it for you. So I always recommend do both at the same time. Keep a little amount for yourself and make that work. Because yeah, we learn you have to work hard for money, right? That's everybody got that in your head. Go to school, get a job, work hard, pay taxes. Yeah, but how many of those hardworking people do you know that are rich? Yeah, most of them are
This is
broke,
true.
right?
This is true. And you know, my late grandpa, he used to always say, make sure you pay yourself first. And that's what I'm hearing from you too. Make sure you pay yourself first. Even if you have, you know, whatever bills you have, make sure a portion of that comes to you. And that's exactly what you're saying right now in investing. So even though you were looking at a big hill to climb, you were like, you know what, I'm going to still pay myself first. And now that money is helping you pay down that debt. So I think that's a good story to tell people and give them some hope and give them some help in getting through this type of thing because it's not easy. It's not easy at all. And to have a strategy, and especially a strategy where your money's working for you, I think that's a phenomenal idea.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so much more fun having your money work for you. And looking at it growing. And of course, you have to spend a little time on education, learn how to actually invest money. Otherwise, you'll just lose it, and that's not fun. So, and today with inflation by 10%, actually, if you don't make at least 10% returns, you're losing money every day. So actually now everybody has to learn how to invest.
Yeah, pretty much. And I don't know how you all's market is doing over there, but I know here we're kind of tanking at this point as far as our stocks and stuff are concerned. So how is it looking over
Well,
there?
the European stock markets are tanking a little more than yours. But
Okay.
personally, I actually invest more in the US stock market than in Europeans because it's more liquid. It's just more interesting. So the Austrian stock market, it does exist, but I wouldn't put my money there. I actually know a story from a large Austrian brewery, and a client of a colleague had a large share of stocks of that brewery. The problem was nobody was buying or selling these stocks. 50% were in the owned by the family that founded that brewery, and that client inherited a large part and he just couldn't sell it. Nobody wanted it. You can't. And why would I invest in a stock exchange that's not liquid? So it doesn't make any sense. Germany, of course, is a lot better,
Right.
but still, it's easy. With the internet and online brokers, it's so easy to invest in the US stock exchange, so I do that.
Gotcha. Well, that is very interesting. It was good to hear about what happens on the other side of the world as it relates to debt and credit and trading and things like that. I think it's just very, very interesting. I think my audience would enjoy that. Now, if they were interested in learning more about you or how to get in contact with you, where would they be able to find you?
Well, the best place probably, especially if they want to get a lot of free tools, tips, tricks, techniques, is my Facebook group. Which is called Money Hero. And there I share a lot of really good and helpful stuff. Then, of course, on my page, moneyheroacademy.com, there you can find a little bit of information about me as well.
Awesome. And we'll make sure that we have both of those links in the show notes. So if you didn't catch that, definitely check out the show notes and we'll have that all there for you. So you can click and follow Florian and see what else he has going on. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I appreciate you staying up this late for me.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been great chatting with you, Tiffany.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening, joining, and being a part of the Money Talk with Tiff podcast this week. You can check Tiff out every Thursday for a new Money Talk podcast. But if you just can't wait until next week, you can listen to previous podcast episodes at moneytalkwitht.com or follow Tiff on all social media platforms at Money Talk with T. Until next time, spend wise by spending less than you make. A word to the money wise is always sufficient.